Hi again, and welcome to Connected Faith. This is a podcast where our goal is to empower and help local churches to be more effective in this digital world that we're involved in. So today we're going to be talking about messaging, about what you put on social media, how your messages can be more effective. And we've got a lot of material to cover. With me is Dr. Lane McDonald, as always, and we're just glad that you have tuned in and hope that you'll stay with us. Welcome, Lane.
Happy to be here.
Good to see you. Let's talk quickly about, in the present situation as you see it, how do you see churches using social media? What kind of messaging is out there?
Most people are just using it as like announcement boards, right? Like sermons. Kind of like the digital bulletin, if you will. And then people get like the snazzy little Instagram photos. But, everybody's doing that. I think the question is more of you're doing the what, but do you know the why?
We're filling in space with something, and we have a lot of things going on in a local church so we can promote them. But I think the research would say that it's white noise. Not a lot of people see it. And it begs the question of, who do you want to reach? Now, let me say this. This is the most important question that you need to deal with. Not only why I'm doing this, but also who. Because in your experience as well as mine, you can't reach everybody with one message. And oftentimes when it comes into digital media, we put something out there and expect everybody to like it. We may not say it that way, but that's what we're hoping for. And the message I want to communicate today to you is you reach more people by aiming for less. The question is, who is your audience? So, and there's no wrong answer to that. The only wrong answer is everybody. Because it doesn't work that way. Everybody will not be attracted. An 18-year-old won't be attracted to what a 55-year-old may be interested in, and vice versa. So if we understand who our audience is and define that clearly, content flows out of that. It begins with that question. Now, from your experience, Lane, what are some attractive or reachable audiences? What does that look like in practical terms? If I'm saying, who is your audience? Let's narrow it down to, give me an example, or how does that relate then to what our messaging is like?
Well, I think, the generalized audience would be are we talking about pastors, leaders of churches, or congregations, like individuals after church on Sundays, right? So obviously the audience for a pastor, the most powerful sermons are going to be personal story sermons that are focused on this topic or another topic or that. For me, my personal niche group, the people that I find myself more influential in, are people that have been through the fire in film and television production.
Sure.
And, nomads, the gypsies, if you will, that just travel around, do film and TV. People are starting, people that want to know about photography and stuff. So my past experiences kind of predefine who's probably going to listen to me when I speak.
Okay.
Losing our daughter, that has opened up a whole nother silent suffering group. I like to call it silent suffering because a lot of people just don't know about that kind of life experience.
Sure.
But it opens up a whole nother dialogue.
So we're bringing our experience to the table, and out of our authenticity, messages can happen.
Yes.
But I think the big choice that somebody needs to make is this platform for my congregation, or do I want to go further? Do I want to reach those that are seeking answers or are interested in faith but don't know where to connect or even how to? So once we define who we want to reach, then messaging, as I said before, flows out of that. You said something interesting before we started that, connection happens before conversion. Explain that. That's a good thought.
Even Jesus built relationships, right? It's like that Zacchaeus thing. He even saw the individuals inside the crowd. He built relationships with the 12 apostles. He built relationships with Mary and Martha and Lazarus. He had best friends, and he had decent friends and people that wanted to be around him. When he was doing like the fish and loaves, he had 5,000 men, right? They counted the men, not just the women and children. So there were a whole lot more people coming out, but he saw the individuals. My wife said something that was really poignant about a pastor that just retired, and she said, he always made you feel like you're the only person in the room.
I've heard that expression before. That's a great gift.
And so you're seeing the sheep within the flock, not, you're not casting something out there and going, whoever wants it, right? You're specifically seeing and understanding someone. So it's called like the soft skills, right? Emotional intelligence is when you understand someone else's emotions and understand what they need from you, and that's what you offer them. I'm not going to have Bill Snyder as a friend, and I'm going to show you, buy you a BMX bike for a BMX race, right? That's not you, right?
Unless you want to send me to the hospital.
But for one of my son's friends, perfect. But I have to know you to understand what you like, what you care about. The nuance of the new effective church is that you don't ask people as a minister to come work for you. You as the minister, your whole, or a missionary, when you go out and do a video, you're not trying to tell them to do something for you. You're trying to help them become a better them. What are they passionate about? What do they like? That is exactly, you're serving. You're coaching them to become what they're passionate about. And not everybody's going to like the same thing, obviously.
Okay. So, typical illustration. Let's say that the audience that you're wanting to reach are in their late 30s, 40s, they're families, they've got children, they've got issues of growing up, kids that are now reaching into elementary and teenage years. They've got family stresses of meeting all the financial needs and obligations that are going on, plus their schedules are really tight and whatever. So a message to them that speaks to their world, that says to them, I see you, I hear you, and God has a word for you. We're adding value into the midst of their world. We see them. We're helping them. We're putting something into their life that is connecting with them. That's the kind of messaging that is going to, I think, bring people toward I need to explore God more, or I need to trust God more. Or does God have something to say in my crazy, chaotic world? Connection before conversion.
Yeah, and remember the old saying, we're talking about this, about, before smartphones, just the basic communication skills of, it was either 4 to 8 connections, right? It took up to 8 connections to really have a good trust in someone or start building a relationship. And then how social media has hacked that relationship and has elevated and accelerated that to where when you watch 8 videos of somebody, the algorithm knows that you're starting to trust what this person is saying, or you keep coming to that person for a reason, and it builds that connector, so you'll start seeing more of that person. Well, if I watch 8 videos of somebody, obviously I'm trusting or interested in what they're saying or being entertained by it. So it's the same idea of reaching families. The great thing about social media, if you do it with integrity and intent as a Christian, and we're talking about social media platforms, they're as different as different countries. Every one of them is going to have a different feel. So If you have friends on Facebook, why are they on Facebook? What are they doing on Facebook? Who is on Instagram? Who is on TikTok? Who is on YouTube?
And the interesting thing, there's answers to all of that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can ask them, like, why are you on Facebook? What do you like looking at on Facebook? What are the things that you're struggling with? Because I'll tell you this, whether you're a Christian, atheist, whatever, most people, even the crazy, far right, far left, insane, or like whatever, they want basic creature needs, right? And we can meet them where they are and start that conversation. So I'll give you an example. So for me, if, for families with children, what are their life experiences? Did they lose their parents early on? So I'm not going to talk directly to them because I don't have that experience. What I am going to talk about is keeping your family safe with digital media, right? Because I know about that. And I know a lot of families struggle with, I want to give my kid an iPad. They have an iPad for school, but how do I keep it filtered and keep crazies away from my kids on a device, right? So I'm not going to just make a 1 hour video of how to do this, right? I could do it. I could do a whole walkthrough long form thing, but the trick is if someone can see 15-second poignant messages, like how much time do we have in a day to watch 52-hour videos, right? Nobody does. But if you can just piecemeal the pieces that are going to change your life, if you can segment the little pieces that are like aha moments, and then after they watch 8 of those, they've built a trust with you. You're building a relationship with these people.
Well, and in essence, what you are saying is the attention that you get is earned.
Yes.
It's earned by consistency.
Yes.
It's not, we can't demand anything. The audience is always control. They can flip it. They can move on. They can change the program. They can turn it off. They don't pay any attention. But if we are speaking to, and we call this in communication felt needs, if we're speaking to where people are really at in that audience that we would like to speak to, then over time we will gain that audience. We will get their attention because we've earned it. And that's a very valuable thing. As you consider how you use social media, we're taking it a long way beyond the announcement page or the upcoming event. Are those things still beneficial? Sure, you can put them up, but they should make up maybe 1/5 of your total amount of content that you would put on social media related to the church and why you're there.
And you can see that with Jesus, right? He spoke in stories. He related to the culture with cultural stories. And not every story was for everybody. The woman that lost the coin, right? A rich person's going to be like, well, what's the point of that? The prodigal son. The Samaritan, right? Not every culture is going to understand those stories. Not every person's going to understand the prodigal son. But I can tell you the prodigal sons probably, that hit home with them, or probably the brother or sister that's dealing with a prodigal brother or sister. So, but he did it in such a way that if you read the Bible, you realize that some of them have a theme: the lost sheep, the lost coin, the prodigal son.
Right.
But also it has different groups of people in it so that it can relate to those types of people. He talked with basic, easy to understand language. Mm-hmm. And those people that came to listen to him probably started conversations with him or people around him. That's how the crowd built so quickly, because he wasn't demanding them with advertising and clickbait, right? He wasn't forcing stuff down people's throats. He invited people to come listen and join into the conversation. And I think if we get to that point in social media where it becomes social,
right.
The whole point of social media is being social. If we can start those conversations with people to go, hey, that video you made, that really resounded with me. I'll tell you a personal experience I have is some of the music I make. And one of the songs is shocking that it's taking off, and it's taking off in different countries. It's called Mother Mary. And it talks about the Catholic view of a Mother Mary. Why is she blessed beyond all women?
Right.
That is taken off with Catholic groups in India and the Philippines, actually, and in Italy. And I can see it on TikTok.
Sense.
People share the videos on TikTok, and they have like Catholic imagery with the song on it, and it's like some event that they celebrated that's near to dear and dear to them. And I'll say, "Hey, thanks for using my song." And I can tell you, a lot of people have come back to me and said, "Wow, that's your song," and they started having conversations with me and find out I'm not Catholic. Yeah. We have a great conversation about it. Yeah. Another one that I've had that is just like always has struck big, and this is something that you guys can use. This is my niche. This is my group, right? Most of my family was in the military, so I made a military album. And one of the songs talks about just the fallen soldier and the pride that we have in them. And every July the 4th, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, that thing takes off like a rocket on TikTok. And one more, Daddy's Little Girl is there's weddings. It's about a dad dancing with his daughter, and I can't tell you how many videos. It's probably the most videos I've gotten of dads is posting photos and videos of dressing their hair, taking them to school for the first time, and I go, "Hey, thanks for using my song." Beautiful photos.
You have spoken to some deep emotional levels.
Yes.
The experience of a person, and you've identified one. And that's another thing that's important in the social media that we're putting up, is keep in mind the individual, not the group. There's going to be a group of people that will attract to you, what you're saying, but there's only one person looking at that screen at a time. So it needs to be personal and not y'all out there. In other words, I'm speaking to you. And that comes off. It comes off that way, that we're not talking to the group, we're speaking to one. Jesus was interested in the one. The shepherd went to find the one lost sheep. The father had one son. So those are the stories that resonate when we speak into the life experiences of people. And we have the ability to do that as God's ministers of reconciliation.
And when we talk about doing this with intent and integrity, there's a lot of people out there doing this with no integrity, but a lot of intent.
Yeah.
So you can see it in news. You can see it in television, soap operas, dramas, horror films is the biggest one. When you get flooded with cortisol, the fight or flight chemicals in your body, you don't think, you react. And if you've watched that news cycle more than 8 times, you've probably built a trust with those people, and you're going to trust whatever they say. And now you're thinking and you're mad texting and doing all sorts of stuff, and it's done on purpose.
Absolutely.
Commercials, right? So every time I turn on the TV and we're watching television, these medical advertisements come on.
We've all seen them.
I don't know. The side effects outweighs the treatment.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a 30-second commercial.
The cortisol takes over in my mind.
15
and I'm like,
seconds. What's going to happen to you if you take it? Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
and they do that on purpose. So now people are freaking out that they're going to die, and they're calling trying to get these medicines. This is great intent with no integrity, right?
Yeah.
And people do this. Now, there's great news cycles out there with great intent and great integrity, right? And we just, as people, need to find that in Christ. Like, who do you trust? Okay. Who has integrity? So I'm making to make the point of, as Christians, when I tell you the story of my daughter, or you tell your story of your son, your life experiences, oxytocin comes in. It's called the connection chemical in the brain. It causes connections with people. So and God has built this within us.
So you're saying, in essence, that stories that we can identify with do something chemically, literally in us that attracts, that brings attraction.
Yes.
Wow.
And the power of that is when you put your story online and you start making these small small bites, sound bites, video bites, it multiplies the ability for people to find your story and connect with you. Mm-hmm. And once you've built that connection, you can open the doors to some conversations that are tough that can really build you closer together as you go closer to Christ.
Need to pause for a minute. You're watching, listening to Connected Faith. We come regularly with a podcast that is designed to encourage the church to be in the digital world, but to be there with messages and with content that can bring people closer to Christ. This is an amazing day that we're living in. I read a statistic, interestingly. By the way, we love your comments and even your topics and all of that. I read something interesting recently that in the subject of orality is a new thing that has come on the scene in the last decades. Basically, people, they have styles of learning. Okay, there is linear style of learning, which means reading. But 80% of the world, according to these experts who have researched and studied this, 80% of the world does not prefer to read to learn. They prefer to listen to learn. They are oral learners, even if they can read a book. Their choice preference is to listen. So podcasts are why they're so popular, just another expression of that. But social media gives us the ability then to communicate orally, visually, in a way that most people want to receive information rather than, hey, here's a book, read this. I'm sorry, most people are not going to read it. They may read a quote. You may be lucky, they may read a chapter. But we're in a moment where we can influence through the types of communication that God has given us the opportunity to do. Let's talk about messaging for a minute in this way. A lot of what I see on media today, from news channels to even social media posts, is divisive. There's a lot of stuff out there that engenders fear or anger. You talked about that before the break.
It's on purpose, yeah.
Okay, and it is on purpose. Our message is not about engendering anger or about dividing people. The message that should come through consistently through all of our communication is a message of hope. Hope that there is more to life than this. We can change the conversation in a direction of eternal things, not temporal frustrations. How have you seen that work out?
Rephrase the question for me.
How have you seen taking hope as the content message or the underlying theme of what we're saying make a difference as opposed to so much of the divisiveness that is a part of our world today in the communication that is coming upon us?
And so you just follow the money, first off. Follow the money. If you're going to a website or a video that causes divisiveness, who's their advertisers, right? Where are they making their money? How can they spend this money to deliver this to you? How do they even find you, right? Whereas they're selling a product, they're selling fear, they're selling something, and we're giving hope away. You can't buy that. You can't buy a sense of peace, a sense of freedom, that you're free from all your sins and all the darkest things you've ever done. You cannot sell that with enough money. I mean, that's priceless. To give it away, someone's always going to think, oh, you're just in it for the tithe, right? It's like, no, that's God. That's God. That's not me. None of that comes to me, right? You know, you have to be able to pull into the storehouse, right? But even just the psychology of the mere exposure effect, which is just merely being exposed by something. Your muscle's a brain, right? So if you exercise with all the cortisol you can bear, all the stress, all the anger, you become more stressful and angry.
Right. True.
If you exercise with hope, peace, love, goodness, kindness, you become what your brain exercises on. So like you said, most people want auditorial, visual, other than books, right? And so they listen to this while driving to work. But we talked about this. You also got the billboard saying you're not good enough, right? Follow the money.
Yeah.
Right? So it really has to do with, you have to have great intent these days to put into your temple of God, your body, what you want to become. And so all these people are selling this stuff to you to become a worse you. And you can give something away to make someone a better them, right? And iron sharpens iron. I wrote something here that said, gospel isn't clickbait, it's only a headline that changes eternity, right? And that, the great thing about social media is within 10 seconds, you can change someone's life. Nowhere in history have we been in a place where the mere exposure effect of just someone saying, hey, follow me, hey, I got something that can make your life better, and that kind of stuff, and these 10-second snippets, and build trust faster than ever before, and get through the little things that would take months on end in the old days. You can start a conversation and something that can change people's lives forever in mere days. And I think if we took that to the power that God intends it to, because I really do think it's a blessing from God that's been hijacked by the other side.
And that's consistently how it's happened.
Yeah, and it's always going to be hijacked.
Right.
Satan wants to steal everybody's joy. And while he's doing it, it's going to take your money too.
Right.
But if you find someone online and people find your stuff online and you're just giving it away, they're going to ask, well, what's your motivation, right? You always go back to that kind of thing. But that's why, after 8 hits, they can go, okay, you're still giving it away. There's something here. There's something different in you. They'll know you by your love, right?
Well, and if you're consistent with messages that speak to the real things of life, that sometimes offers a bit of humor, you're going to attract somebody that is going to begin to trust. The goal is not, as we say in media, the goal is not views. The goal is engagement. If you have 150 views to something, that's wonderful. If you have 1,000, even better. But if 5 people say something back to you, or 50 people say something back to you, then that starts the conversation that may take it to the next level. So in some ways, we give people a reason to respond, or when they do, we immediately respond back. And that's something that staff can be involved in, so that you're looking for that conversation that can happen out of it. So hope will always trump fear. Fear attracts audience, but hope attracts change. And that's something that you uniquely have the opportunity to offer on the page or pages that your church has.
Yeah, and fear will degrade trust over time. You can see that in our culture now. No one knows who to trust because all the bad news out there, right?
Yeah.
But if you have friends that you can come around and, you feel hopeful, you build trust, hope and fear will impact your health more than a job, more than any person in this world, more than your physician. And you can tell that hope and fear are real by the fact of the power in them, right? No one's going to curse the name of Muhammad, but they'll curse the name of Jesus and God all day long. There's a power in it. And so when people discover, and people are so used to being sold a bill of goods, there's almost everything on YouTube, every video on TikTok, it's selling something. Right? But if you're giving it away, they will instantly realize there is something different. And they'll come away feeling it too. There is a chemical relationship, the cortisol versus the oxytocin, right? They'll go to the oxytocin every time. They'll start getting addicted to the hope instead of addicted to the fear. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the culture, and where we have been just grown up on the idea of these fear-mongering, ad-ridden elements. When we introduce this element of Jesus, that says, I died for you, I gave everything. You didn't have to buy anything. This was for free. I think just by nature, our human curiosity goes, why? People are just going to migrate towards you, like you said. People are going to start finding it. Because if you look at the most searched words in Google, it has a lot to do with hope and fear.
Right. Saw a news article. It was at the end of a national newscast. The commentator was saying this is the most unusual story. A mother approaches a convicted felon who was responsible for a hit and run that killed her son. She comes up to him at the end of the trial and gives him a long, heartfelt hug and says to him, I forgive you. And that hit national news. Now, of all the other news stories that were on that cycle, the one I remember is a little mom walking up to a 6'5" guy who was drunk out of his mind and drove a car and caused an accident that killed a young boy. That's hope. And that rises to a level of awareness that even if you're a secular person, you say, how in the world can she do that? And it begins the question or the searching of what gave her the ability to forgive the one that killed her son in a hit-and-run accident. Hope will always trump fear, and we have to be hope givers, and we can do that through the communication vehicles God's given the church. It's more than an announcement page. Okay? So, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's about building trust, not being perfect. People stop doing what their heart tells them to do because they fear what people are going to think about them. Like, if you got your video camera, if you got your phone, shows my age, right? Video camera. Record videotape. I've heard that one. Just get out, just start shooting. Just start telling your story. Just what inspires you, share it with the world, because you're not an isolated event. What inspires you is going to inspire so many other people. And if you just share inspirational things like, hey, I was reading this, love to hear your thoughts, sooner or later someone's going to start replying and you're going to have conversations going. But the lie of being perfect, wondering what's behind you, and perfect lighting and perfect sound. I mean, this whole studio is kind of like an outlier.
We're more into authenticity than in perfection.
Right? That's really what people are yearning for. I grew up in a denomination that taught pastors to speak perfect English and never stutter. It was almost like they memorized their sermon before they got up there. In fact, we had something that was kind of like a kids' competition kind of thing every year. And we had sermons and all different things, puppets and all that kind of stuff. But I remember memorizing my sermon like I was going up on stage for a monologue in a play, right? But that's how I was taught. So I had that in my mind growing up. And I became a youth pastor, and I had that always in my mind. I was memorizing everything. Being prepared is different than being perfect. I think God wants you to spend time just being with Him. And that kind of stirs the waters and prepares you to be able to say these things, get it out of your head, right?
Have a word instant in season.
Right. Quiet times in prayer are not for God, it's for us.
Talking about audience, there is an amazing opportunity we have today because we have these communication tools in our hands. Most of the time, honestly, if we're honest with each other, we're not using them well. We can do more. We can reach more people. Therefore, once we understand who it is that God has put on our heart to reach, who is our audience, out of that comes the opportunities to communicate a word that is in season, that speaks into their lives, that offers them something beyond the secular run-of-the-mill of life that is hitting them and trying to degrade their world. So this is a podcast that is encouraging you to take the next step, to go beyond the church bulletin board, to put words into people's lives consistently that will attract them to the God of the Bible, to Jesus Christ and what he offers to us. Now, in a podcast like this, we realize that 30, 35 minutes, we can't tell you everything you need to know. That's why we have attachments. We have other things that you are able to access that's going to give you more. It's going to let you dive deeper. There's something here you're interested in, then you can click on the additions that we add to every podcast. So look for those, look for the outlines, look for the additional footage that is available to you. It's all free because we want to see his message multiplied. My background has been in missions for over 35 years, and our theme in all that we did in Asia was his message multiplied. If we can give it away so that others can do it, the message can go farther. So we're thankful that you've joined us today. Tell somebody about it. Follow up with us if there's topics that you'd like us to deal with, but we really thank you so much for joining us on Connected Faith. Have a great day. God bless.